Hey guys, what's up? My name is Victoria, welcome back to my channel. I'm aware that the lighting is weird. As you can see, this is going to be a reading vlog. I wanted to do another readathon. I think I did that last year in March, where I read a book every single day. I don't know how many days I'm gonna do this. At least 3, maybe 4. As you saw, the first book I'm reading is The Perks of Being a Wallflower by Stephen Chbosky. A friend of mine has been telling me to read this for ages, and I watched the movie 3 times. I actually watched it 2 days ago with my mom and my sister, so the memory is still very clear in my head. What I can say is that the movie is very close to the book, at least the first part. By the way, I have a really cool list of books I want to read this week, so please stay tuned. I'm probably going to finish this book in the evening. As much as I would like to tell you, oh yeah, I finished this book by 1 p.m. and I read the entire morning, I'm a slow reader. I think it took me like 2.5 hours to read 100 pages. This book has 236, so I'm not even halfway through. I like it so far. Because it's close to the movie, I think I would have preferred to, not have seen the movie before. But it's definitely still fun to read. It's about Charlie, and he writes letters to a friend, and he always addresses the letters with "dear friend," and the whole book is told in those letters, and everything's from Charlie's perspective. And he just started high school, and it's just a coming of age story with focusing not only on first love and finding friends and finding yourself, but also mental illness, mental health, and mourning, death, family issues, a bit of everything. And I want to read this passage to you, which I just now read. It's like on page 100. I don't know if this is a spoiler, but Charlie is not the healthiest kid. He's been through some really tough stuff. Life has been really hard on him, and sometimes he just doesn't know how to deal. And I would say he's depressed a lot, but he always says that he's scared of things getting bad again, or him getting bad again. And I remember that so vividly when that was me. I mean, it's not that long ago. I'm aware that I talk a lot in my videos about mental health, especially my mental health, how I always focus on that. But I don't think it's a wrong thing to mention that I was once in this place and I'm better now. I think that's always nice to say, so I'm gonna say it. Okay, so he says, I don't know if you've ever felt like that you wanted to sleep for 1,000 years, or just not exist, or just not be aware that you do exist, or something like that. I think wanting that is very morbid, but I want it when I get like this. That's why I'm trying not to think. I just want it all to stop spinning. If this gets any worse, I might have to go back to the doctor. It's getting that bad again. Love always, Charlie. And I'm very thankful that I'm reading this book now, and not a few years ago. I think I would have liked it, but there was this sort of thing that started happening with me rewatching shows, rewatching movies that I haven't done in a long time, that I watched before I was in a bad place, and that I'm watching now after I've gone out of that bad place or know how to deal with that certain bad place. I think that's a very interesting thing. It makes me really happy because obviously I don't think it's great that I went through this, but I think it's great that I can say that I'm currently not going through this. Reading this, remembering that time, is better than reading this and being reminded that you are in that place right now, at least for me. And obviously that's not to say that, oh yeah, you should only read this book when you're feeling better. And that's just for me. I don't know what it would do, what it would have done if I read this when I was still very sick. It's a sad feeling, but it's not the bad kind of sad, which is also a thing that Charlie describes in one passage where he's like, everyone knew that this was a sad thing, but it wasn't this bad kind of sad. It was just sad. Anyway, I've been talking now. I just want to say that I can relate to Charlie a lot. I really like it so far. I've talked for 10 minutes. I'm gonna keep reading and I'll keep you updated. I think the next time I'm going to come back to you guys is maybe shortly before I finish it, or maybe even half finish it, because I don't want this video to be too long. And as you can see, I like talking about things a lot. Anyway, yay! Well, I have to change my battery, of course. Okay, I finished the book. The last letter made me cry. I'm happy I read this. By the way, it's almost 5 p.m. That's how long it took me, with breaks of course, to read this book. I feel like this is a great book for school. I can't say if this book would have helped me if I read it a couple years ago. I just don't think that I was open for open. I just don't think that I was open for a lot of things that were discussed in this book. Not talking about topics necessarily, just the fact that it's, even though it's fiction, it is very realistic. I don't know, I feel like sitting around for like 10 minutes just not doing anything. It made me crying, because that last letter was something. I don't know, it said things that I usually hate reading about and hate when other people tell you about, because you're like, yeah, sure, everything is gonna be fine, blah blah. I hate when I read such stuff in like advice-giving books, non-fiction books, but with this one, it just felt really real. And since I was able to relate to the feeling of it actually does get better, I think that just hit me harder. I don't know, when you feel bad, when you're experiencing such a low in your life, or in general lows in your life, and people tell you it's gonna be okay, you're not open for that, I think. I think your mind is shutting that off because it has other things to deal with. So when people tell you it's gonna be fine, yeah, of course, I mean, you want to believe that. Depends on how bad it currently is. But I wasn't open for that. When I was hopeless, when I was depressed, there was nothing. There was not even a feeling. There was not even negativity. It was just all blank and numb, which for me is the worst feeling, because I have a lot of feelings and I need to express them as much as I can. And not feeling anything was so bad. It sucked. So again, I wasn't open for the feeling of, yeah, it's gonna be okay. So I think if I had read this book in a time that I was feeling sad, I don't think the ending would have, I don't know if the ending would have got to me. I don't think it would have. In case you're wondering if there are any noises, my sister's here. You want to say hi?
Hello.
It made it sound like you're like younger than me. She's 3 years older. Anyway.
Yes, obviously.
Okay, what I wanted to say is that I don't think I would have been that affected by that, because, as I said, the mind is closed, or mine when it was. But now, knowing that it actually can be better, I don't want to spoil too much about the last letter, but I just know. I don't know. It just caught me off guard and made me, cry. You saw that. Alright, this was the first book. I'm really happy about it. If you haven't read The Perks of Being a Wallflower yet, please do. By the way, I think this is perfect for readers who want to read in English, like beginners. This is perfect. There was not a single word I googled or looked up, and I do look up a lot of words. Like my vocabulary is not even that huge. So I think it's written in a really great way, and though it's not the most poetic and like flurry language, which I love, there are some quotes that I liked, but more because of the humanity that they expressed and the way that Charlie not described them but just saw them. That was incredible, and I liked spending time with Charlie. That was great. But yeah, I think it's a great book for school, but only for, trigger warnings. Please check them. There are topics discussed in this book which are not easy to deal with. So yeah, great book. I loved it. See you tomorrow.
Morning, guys! Me and my sisters are going to run some errands today because it's my mom's birthday in a couple of days. Actually in 2. As you can see, I'm reading I Want to Die But I Want to Eat Tteokbokki. My friend told me how to say it. I forgot. What do I think about the book so far? It's told in therapy sessions. So far, I enjoy it. The pace is good. The way of writing is really easy to get and sounds really realistic. It's interesting to dive into someone else's experience with therapy. A different perspective on therapy is always interesting, but it makes me like, my experience with therapy is that I talk most of the time. And in this book so far, I'm only on page like 25. The therapist says a lot, or the psychiatrist says a lot, which of course is good. And I do think she has some good points. It's interesting. It's very interesting. So yeah, I'll keep reading. I'll keep you updated. Just wanted to, let you know what I'm up to today. Yay!
Hey guys, the lighting is awful. I don't look my best. No, we're not gonna say that. Anyway, it's my first checkpoint with I Want to Die But I Want to Eat tteokbokki. It's already almost 7 p.m. We came back pretty late, so that's why I only really started reading 1.5 hours ago. I don't know. I think I'm exactly at half the book, maybe a bit more. I'm on page 101. What can I say? I definitely thought the book would be a bit different. I thought it would focus heavily on depression and not really on other problems that a person can have. Before I talk more about that, I want to say that the pace is very good. I think this is a book you can read in a day, but I think it's also a book that you could read like for a week, like every day, read one session, and really let the things that are in this book go through your mind. I think this is also a book I will read twice. At least. Because right now, of course, I'm rushing through it just a bit. So what I said before is I thought it focused more on depression, but depression is an all-over thing that they haven't really discussed yet. As I already told you, I thought the psychiatrist said a lot of things, or is saying a lot of things in this book. A lot of the time, she faces a problem or describes a situation that she's struggling with, and she explains it, and then the psychiatrist immediately has a solution for it. Not really saying, okay, if you do that, do this, but more like explaining it from the point of an outsider, from the view of an outsider, kind of, which is something that is so good that therapy just does, because until you have had therapy, there's not really a situation you can compare it to. Because when you talk to someone about your struggles, let's say you're a family member or someone you just trust and love, it's always going to be different, because that person, first of all, obviously doesn't have the academic background or the medical background, I guess, but also is attached to you, and then their emotions attached to the situation. And a therapist, psychiatrist, I bet everyone knows this, but I just don't know. I thought it was fun to talk about. Just looks at it objectively and can tell you, yeah, this is why you might be doing it. I sometimes feel like that maybe it's because I rush through the book a bit. I don't know. Sometimes I feel like they don't dive deep into the topics that much. I don't know. Maybe it's because I can't really go into the character's mind as much, because I can only work with what I have. But I have the feeling of only like superficially being able to connect with the character. Although I gotta say that, as I said, it's not only depression that is discussed, just life in general. If you have no idea what therapy might be like, I think this is a good book to show you what it can be like. Because in therapy, you're able to talk about your problems and struggles, like your diagnosis, for example, but also about just everyday things and relationships. And I'm excited to see what else is there. The way that the therapy session starts is like, how have you been? I've been well, or I have not been well. And then they dive into that topic of that week, which is something that I also always do when I go to therapy. Sometimes I have no idea what I want to talk about. Then I just start talking, and then we find something that we might dive into deeper. So my therapist asked me, is that something you would like to talk more about, or you would like to look into more? And I was like, yeah, sure, why not? And I never say no. I never say, no, you know what, let's not do that. Because when there's an opportunity to get to know myself better, I always take it. All the time. And getting to know yourself better is also discussed, which is, I think, which page was it? I marked the entire page because I liked it, because I feel like so little people, I also talked to my former high school English teacher about this last week, how little we think that people really like know themselves. And that is so fun to look at. This book is different to everything I've ever read. I don't know if I even had high expectations for this. I can't erase the fact that I feel a bit disappointed, which I don't know why it's there. I don't know. I have therapy in 2 days. Maybe I'll discuss it with my therapist. But I don't know. For some reason, I read this book and I'm like, But I have no idea why. I always kind of hope for an emotional connection with the character. And since the therapy sessions are very like professional, and as I said, I feel like it's very superficial, even though the topic is not, just the situation. I don't know, I can't seem to really connect with the character. There are some things that I can relate to, but that's not always important, right? I don't know. I just wanted to tell you about that feeling of, somehow there's this distance that I can't seem to look past between me and the character, which is fine. It's totally fine. Now I talked for 9 minutes. Why can't I just say, oh yeah, I like the book so far, and I don't like the book so far? Count the times where I've mentioned my therapy. See you later. Okay. Hey guys, I finished the book around 2.5 hours ago. First of all, why didn't I finish it last night while I was in bed? And usually I take that time to read a bit more. I wrote a really long poem, which I'm really excited about, which you might see soon. I don't know. And I couldn't have outside forces break that space because sometimes I'm in these really intense phases that last, I don't know how long, depends. Sometimes they last 10 minutes, sometimes they last 2 hours, where I'm really closed off to everything outside, but so open to everything that is happening inside. So yeah, I just didn't want to disturb that and maybe break the flow of writing. So that's why I finished it this morning, which was a really good idea because it's not a good idea to rush through this book, in my opinion. First of all, when I said I thought it was a bit disappointing or I expected something else, I should have just looked up that this is a memoir and not a fiction story. It's nonfiction, which I don't read a lot. So I think if I had known that, I don't know why I didn't know it. I assumed it was more like someone creating a character who's going to therapy sessions, but whatever. I think if I had known that it was more like a memoir and nonfiction, I think my expectations for the book would have been much different. But knowing that now, I think I can reflect upon it a bit better. I still stand by the saying of I wasn't able to connect to the character that much, and it lacked something, and I couldn't say what. So the first 150 pages are these therapy sessions with little, like, I felt like they were journal entries or diary entries where she reflects upon the former documented therapy session, which I thought was amazing. I love these texts where she's again thinking about it, what she talked about it with her therapist, but also thinking about her in certain situations. Sometimes she emphasizes on that point of her struggles, and sometimes she emphasizes on wanting to change her perspectives on things. Before this gets too long, I want to say that the last 40 pages or the last 30 to 40 pages were my absolute favorite part of the book. And I'm really happy that I didn't rush through the last quarter of the book because I really like those. There are tiny reflections on her life after therapy. Some of them focus on therapy, some of them focus more on her just having changed her perspective on things and her continuing her journey to change, or just her journey through life in a way, which I thought was incredible to read and incredible to witness because it kind of showed a bit of character development, which I'm really happy about. This book is not satisfying in a sense of, yeah, she goes to therapy and after that she's cured and here you have a great solution to all of her problems. And I don't think anyone really expected that. But I found myself kind of hoping for, oh, is there a happy ending? Absolutely there was. I believe there was. And I don't know if you see it, but I annotated and marked quite a bit, especially in the last 30 to 40 pages, because I loved seeing her perspective change and reflecting on things. And this book was unlike anything I've ever read. Maybe it's because I don't read that much nonfiction, but maybe it's also because it's so heavily focused on her. There were no outside forces. There was not another character than her except for a psychiatrist who was there for the, like, medical background and input, like the other voice, obviously. But it was so nice to see her really taking the time to focus on herself, discussing things that I found so important and I think everyone should find out more about, like change of perspective, thinking in extremes, because the author and also the main character in this book, so she herself, thinks a lot in black and white. Change of gaze. One of the first journal entries, which I'm gonna call them like diary entries or whatever, like the text that she writes after the therapy sessions are done, is turning my gaze. And also what is most important to me, which was getting to know yourself. She discusses that. And her psychiatrist says in one of the therapy sessions, you have to get to know yourself better. You just have to get to know yourself. What do you like? And then what do you think would help in getting to know yourself better? And she doesn't really have an answer. And I did not have an answer. I did not have an answer while reading this book, to be honest. Everyone keeps saying, and I keep saying that, yeah, I think people should get to know themselves better. I think they'd be much happier if they just knew what was going on and knew what they had to do, not only what they like in life, but also knowing what is good for them and what is not good for them, and knowing what to do in certain situations, good and bad. And I love that you don't have an answer for this, but at the end of this book, you realize how much this author got to know herself throughout just writing and throughout reflecting and realizing things that she thought about differently because her perspective was so different. You get to know yourself subconsciously, in my opinion. Also, a thing that I liked, this emphasizes that in therapy sessions, the goal is rarely, and I talked to some people about it, and I have made the experience myself, and I've seen in this book, the goal is not always to find the root of a problem and then really only work on the root of the problem. It's more like, yes, you can find out why you might do this and why you might do that, but then after finding that out, you need to move on. Great, you know that, make sure that you do know why, but don't prioritize it. Don't spend too much time on it, because there is so much more to find out about yourself. It's great to have a why, but the why sometimes is really, really complex and complicated. And I'm so happy that I don't spend my therapy sessions with asking a question, oh, why am I like this? And then diving into things that happened in my childhood. As I said, it's more like, okay, yeah, this might have been because of that, but how about I focus on, if it's like a negative thing, on how to overcome that, or how to work with it, and how to accept it, and how to know what to do in the situations when I get that way, or when I'm reminded of that. And that is so much fun. And I'm so, so happy that I read this book now. It's kind of like the same with The Perks of Being a Wallflower, how I think I wouldn't have been able to connect to the material and the topics in these books 2 years ago. I also, by the way, think that this book is written in a very accessible way, so for non-English speakers, I think you'd be able to understand this very well. I hate self-help books, and I mentioned that multiple times on this channel, because I'm not able to connect to anything. If someone tells me you should do this, I'm like, shut up. Great that it worked for you. Don't make it universal. And that's what I found in this. She does not make it universal. She does not claim her experiences to be all-knowing and helping and advising. It's more like, this is my story. And it doesn't have the message, read this and you will feel better and you will have answers. It's more like, read this and experience my story. And maybe you'll find something in it that you can relate to. And that is what I love most. And if you have any non-fiction books, because I do want to read more non-fiction that do that, maybe recommend them in the comments. Now I talked for 70 minutes, I'm sorry. I thought this vlog is gonna be like, oh yeah, maybe like 15 minutes, just me reading and telling you guys what I thought about the book. But I found out that that's not the way that I like to discuss books. I don't want to make content for you guys where I just read books and I'm like, yeah, this is the stars I'm giving it, this is what I like, this is what I didn't like 2 sentences about that, and then be done with it. I sometimes think that my videos are too long and some people get tired of it and that's why they don't watch it, but I don't want to make content like that, because I like discussing things and I like talking and I like spending time reflecting on a book that's not only like 3 minutes. So I'm going to continue to do that. Anyway, the book I'm reading next, which I'm reading today, is Jacqueline Woodson's Red at the Bone, which is a short book about an unexpected teenage pregnancy which pulls together 2 families from different social classes. So this is a story about family and I'm excited for it. Let's go. Ooh, wait. Hey guys, good morning. It's 8:20. If you want to say what time it is, just ask. Yeah, my mom isn't home, and every time that happens, my dogs kind of just freak out, and now they want to play, so we're gonna have to let them. It's 8:28, that's what I wanted to say, AM. And I did check in with you guys about Red at the Bone, because I kept reading and suddenly the book was over. It's the next morning now, and I thought about filming this clip yesterday because I finished it around 6 p.m. Yeah, but I didn't feel so good and also wanted to sleep over it a bit, but my mind hasn't changed. What did I think of Red at the Bone? I loved it. I devoured this so fast, and this was an amazing book, and I'm so happy that I finally read it. Look at all the things that I marked. In the beginning, I marked something on every single page. This does not happen often. So what is this about? I kind of told you about it when I read part of the summary. So Red at the Bone is a story about one family, and each character gets a say. They each have their time for monologues. Some talk more, some talk less. I thought it was a good mix, although I would have liked a bit more from Melody, because it starts with Melody. Melody is 16 years old and she has her coming of age ceremony, and the story surrounds her mom Iris, Melody's dad Aubrey, and then their parents, and I loved it. I loved it so much. I loved the way of writing. There was just the right amount of description, so you could kind of see what was happening and see where they were and how they looked, but not too much that it was tiring. You know, those books who spend so much time on description and exposition, we start right away. What I also liked, I marked the first page, is that the first sentence in this entire book starts with a but, which I found very interesting. So the chapters are short, the way of writing, it's so easy. Like, look, some pages aren't even filled that much. I can't explain it. I just loved it so much. It's a story about family, about love, about very complicated relationships, teen pregnancy, because Iris was pregnant with Melody when she was 15, and their relationship and how everything kind of came together but also fell apart. The ending is very sad. I cried. I loved it. How many times have I said this now? I thought it was a really great book. It was easy to get through. The topics were so moving, or just what was described was so moving, because you feel like you got to know every single character now. It's not their entire life story, of course. It's just a tiny glimpse into their lives and what happened, and I loved it. Take a shot every time I say this. The New York Times said it was profoundly moving, and I think I stand behind that. I agree with this. I'm so happy that I read this book. I was so happy. I'm giving it 5 stars, and it's probably gonna be in my best books of 2022 video, which I'm really happy about. I'm so happy that I read it. I'm so happy that it was so great. I definitely want to read more by Jacqueline Woodson, because her way of writing was just so accessible but at the same time beautiful. Okay. Now this is actually the last day. As you might have noticed by now, the vlog is pretty long, and tomorrow it's my mom's birthday, and I do have some things I need to prepare, so today it's gonna be the last day of reading in this reading marathon, obviously, and I'm gonna read before the coffee gets cold. I'm so excited for this book. If you have no idea what this is about, this is set in Tokyo in a cafe, and in this cafe, when you sit at a certain seat, you are able to travel back in time as long as your coffee stays warm. I also have my coffee here, so I think this is great. I'm so happy to get through some of the books that I have had on my TBR for so long, that are short but make me really happy to be reading. Because this year wasn't so great with reading, to be honest, because I've had a hard time just sitting down and reading a book. Anyway. Guys, I'm halfway through and it's already 20 p.m. It's already 8 p.m. I'm so tired, guys. I thought this was gonna be so easy. Like, the book itself is easy. I'm not talking about the writing, but like my time management today just sucks. And just now finished 100 pages. I'm probably going to finish the next 100 pages tomorrow. So I'm gonna end this vlog tomorrow. So it's not necessarily reading a whole book every day, but you know, if I were to rush through this, I would not enjoy it. What do I think of it so far? I gotta say, I had pretty high expectations for this book. I cannot say that they are met. So far, I give the book like 2.5 or 3 stars out of 5, which is not a lot, I realize. I mean, I'm only halfway through. I didn't enjoy the first story that much, gotta be honest. There are 4 different stories here, but there's not a lot of focus on like the inner turmoil or emotions. It's such a short book, and within this short book there are 4 different stories about 4 different individuals. You only get a glimpse into their lives. There's a distance, definitely, which I don't think is a bad thing, but somehow makes me rate this book lower or makes me not enjoy it as much. I don't even know. I don't know. I'm not enjoying it as much as I thought I would, which is fine. It's totally okay. I didn't enjoy the second story more than the first story. I like the topic more, though I'm kind of dissatisfied by it, which is also like it you know, has its purpose. I enjoy it for the new experience and for reading literature other than American or English books. I'll see you guys later, probably, most likely tomorrow. Hey guys, it's the next day. I finished before the coffee gets cold this morning. It's almost 6 p.m. because I'm just now filming the outro and filming my final kind of review or telling you my final thoughts on this book way later. So, I gotta be honest with you guys. This book was a bit disappointing for me. I just think it's not my cup of coffee. I don't know. I felt like there was this distance that I maybe told you about before just didn't go away. And it was, I mean, there's this certain kind of distance that is good, but it was such a huge difference to the characters that I just couldn't look past. And I gotta be honest, I did not think the stories were that enjoyable. I thought them to be quite boring. The expositions were so long, like it took like 40 pages before they even got to that point of, okay, I'm going to the past now or to the future. And then they spent like 10 pages in the past, but rather than spend that time really talking about how the character was feeling, I felt like the focus was pretty much on how everything looked, which is interesting, of course, but I just felt like that amount of description was so huge compared to the amount of monologue about the characters and their thoughts. I like the concept. There was one concept with a certain ghost that I will not get too much into, I don't want to spoil anyone, which I think is the most interesting point. That was interesting. In general, the whole like concept of the book, I loved it. I thought it was so original. I'm really happy that I read it, don't get me wrong. I just did not enjoy the characters so much. I wasn't really moved by this. Maybe it's because of the writing style. I don't know, maybe I think it really is the amount of description, but also the writing style of, I read that character being disappointed, sad, angry. I read that, but somehow I couldn't feel anything. But I'm still glad that I read it. This book was always intriguing. It was definitely something new, which I was happy about. And this was it. I really need to wrap this up now. This video is way longer than I thought. I have no idea when this is coming out. Guys, I haven't uploaded in a couple days. I hope you liked it, and if you did, please give me a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet. Click the bell next to the subscription button to never miss an upload. And if you want to be really sure, follow me on my Instagram. You get all the updates. All my social media is linked down below, including my poetry channel and links to educate yourself on the war or to even donate to people who really need it right now. And if you have any sources, please leave them in the comments. Yeah, let me know. Have you read any of these books? What books have you been reading lately? What was disappointing? What was maybe not your cup of... I'm not gonna say it again. But you know what I mean, so definitely let me know. Anyway, I'm gonna go. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I hopefully see you in my next video. Bye! In a hotel. No. This is not pretty. I don't like it when it's not pretty. Honestly, count the times. Flowery. Should stop thinking about the vowels and just say them. I enjoy this for the... When there's an opportunity to get to know myself better. Was habe ich wieder so hässlich gesagt? When there's an opportunity to get my... Jesus. Kinder, müsst ihr das unbedingt machen, wenn ich gerade einen Vlog drehe? When there's an opportunity to get my... When there's an opportunity... Mann, ihr seid laut. See you. Das weiß ich. Sorry guys, I talk so much.